Welcome to the Ultimate Dracotail Combo Guide. I'll be showcasing to you unseen combos as they're only legal in Master Duel that super floodgate your opponent. In addition to that, we're going to be using and abusing branded fusion. But don't worry, all of the common plays with Dracotail are here. Let's begin. Starting off with the Lukias normal summon, we're going to be searching our deck for a Femina. Femina is going to activate to fuse the hand and field. We're going to send any other hand trap, whatever it is, plus the Lukias to make the Arthalion. Arthalion is going to target engrave per the cards we used in hand to return back to the hand. Now, it could also target cards in the field. We're going to be triggering the effect of Lukias to set from the deck a Rahu Dracotail. All the Dracotails trigger when sent to the grave for a fusion summon, as we now return back the Femina. Now, we could use the Rahu Dracotail to fuse from the deck one card plus a card from the hand. We're going to send the Urgula plus the Femina from the hand to fusion summon into the Gulamel. Now, since two bodies have been used for the fusion summon that are Dracotails, they're going to be triggering to set Dracotail cards in the deck. We're going to set for the deck a Flame, as we then set from the deck a Horn. Now, Urgula is going to activate to return the Femina engrave back to our hand. Now, this will be our common end board here, and what exactly does this entail? We have Femina to fuse during their turn, we have Gulamel to pop a card in the field, we have the Horn to return an attack position monster back to the hand, and we have the Flame to also negate a spell. Let's see it all in use. As they're going to start off with the Dormouse, we're going to use the Horn to return it back to the hand and also return and engrave a Dracotail card to the bottom of our deck to then draw one card. This means this card is ashable or ghost bellable. So you draw into a Beaver Warrior. They're now going to Gold Sark. We're going to activate the Flame. Flame will negate the spell, returning back the trap engrave that we used earlier, the Horn, to draw another Beaver Warrior. They're now going to get a bunch of bodies on field. They have the March Hare, come forth onto the field here, Dormouse. They're activating Malice and Underground. We're going to respond to this activation by chaining the Femina. Now, Gulamel needs to be the direct chain link to any Dracotail card effect so that we could target any card that the opponent controls to then destroy it. We're not discarding the Femina for the effect of Gulamel. We're discarding the Femina for its own effect, as we are targeting the field spell to destroy it, stopping its effect to banish from the deck. Now, Femina is going to be resolving using our entire hand plus a monster on the field. We're going to be going into another Arthalion. Arthalion per monster used in the hand is going to return that many cards on the field or in the graveyards back to our hand or the opponent's hand. So instead of targeting cards in our graveyard or the opponent's graveyard or our own field, we're targeting both cards in the opponent's field to return back to the hand. And just like that, those are the common disruptors. Now, Rahu Dracotail with any other monster from the hand, we're going to fuse from the deck using a Femina, summoning an Arthalion. Arthalion on summon is going to activate, returning the Femina engrave back to our hand. As Femina triggers for being used as a fusion summon is set from the deck a Key2. Key2 will be activating, searching for a Lukias. Lukias will be our normal summon here. Lukias will be searching our deck for the Urgula. Urgula is going to be used with the Lukias on field with the effect of Femina to fuse into a Gulamel. Since we use both bodies, both are going to be triggering to set from the deck new Dracotail cards. We're going to have the Flame, plus we're going to have the Horn, and then we're going to be using the effect of Urgula to return the Femina back to the hand. We have a spell negate, return a monster back to the hand. We could fuse, we could also destroy a card on the field and draw two. We're now going to be looking at a Mululu plus any other monster in our hand. Normal summon Mululu. Mululu activates if this gets negated. Mululu is a quick effect which could use its effect during the opponent's turn. We're now going to use Mululu to fuse the hand and field to go into the Arthalion. Arthalion's going to be triggering to return and engrave the Mululu back to our hand. As we trigger the Mululu to set a Rahu from the deck. Mululu returns back. Let's flip up the Rahu activate. And this is where we have a choice. We could send the Urgula instead of the Pan. Now, the Urgula at the moment has no effect to return a spellcaster back, but later it could. But instead with the Pan, we could have the benefit of its trigger effect. If a face-up fusion would be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, while this card's in the graveyard, you could then trigger this effect to special summon from the graveyard the Mululu, then we potentially have a fusion summon play. And this is after we summon the Gulamel. We're now going to trigger the Pan, which will set from the deck the Flame. And this is also another option. You could set the Flame or you could set the Horn. Flame will negate a spell. Horn will return an attack position monster. It's completely up to you on what you want to do with the Mululu play. This combo is using and abusing Lukias with any other Dracotail in hand plus any other hand trap that we possibly have. It could also be another Dracotail. And we are not going to be using the Anaconda in this combo. Instead, we're going to be going into the Heavenly Spheres, which is safer around Nibiru. And I will be showcasing the Anaconda plays within in this video. Normal summon Lukias. Lukias on summon is going to be searching for the Femina. Activate Femina. We're going to be fusing with the hand, not the field. The body on the field is an important resource to maintain here, as we're going to send away the Fool Loss and the Pan to go into an Arthalion. Arthalion's going to return 2 cards engraved back to our hand. Pan being used for fusion summon is going to set from the deck a Rahu. Let's return back. We can return back the Fool Loss and the Femina. We're now going to link off the Lukias into the Spirit with Eyes of Blue. You could have done this earlier if you wanted to return Lukias back to the hand instead of the Fool Loss. Now, we're going to be turning 2 dragons into a Hieratic Seal. And now we're going to flip up the Rahu using the Femina and the Urgula from the deck to go into a Gulamel. This will trigger both cards to set from the deck a Flame, Horn, and also we're going to have Engrave, the Arthalion, triggering to reborn itself back in the field. If 2 bodies are sent to the grave at the same time while any of our fusions are engraved, they come back out onto the field, but then if they leave the field again, they're going to get banished. We're going to use the Urgula to return the engraved Femina back to the hand. And with this, we have the ability to fusion summon with the Femina. We could return a monster back with the Horn. We could negate a spell with the Flame. We could pop a card in the field with the Gulamel, and we could return a face-up card the opponent controls back to the hand with the Heavenly Spheres and summon a monster from our deck. Let's showcase that play. As they're going to be summoning a March Hare, banishing from the hand here onto the field, there's a Chessie Cat. We're going to use the Heavenly Sphere to return back one of their face-up cards, triggering Engrave to summon from the deck an Albaz. Albaz will be activating, discarding a Fool Loss to then fuse with the opposing field. Now, instead of this, you could summon a Mululu from your deck if you do not want to play Albaz, and Mululu could also be another way to fuse. As we fuse it up, we have a Lubellian Searing Dragon. We could discard a card from the hand to further fuse into our Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade will be an additional non-target monster banish. And now it's time to show you the Floodgate combo. If your opponent's not playing a deck with dragons, this will floodgate them out. So don't worry about the hand here. It's going to be a 2.5 card combo play. You could have the Kitu or the Lukias. I'm just having multiple cards to show you. So then when we normal summon the Lukias, I'm not activating because we have either the Femina or the Urgula, and then we would search for the one we are missing. That's all this is. This is a 2.5 card combo. It's not 4 cards like it looked like. We're now going to use the Femina to fuse with the hand, not the field. Again, the field is an important resource. If we don't have to fuse with it, we're going to leave it. We're going to summon the Arthalion. We're just going to return 2 cards in graveyard back to the hand as we trigger the Urgula to set from the deck a Rahu, returning back the Fool Loss and the Femina. We're going to link off the Lukias into the Spirit with Eyes of Blue. Again, you could have linked off earlier to return the Lukias back to the hand if you'd like. We're now going to link off both into a Hieratic Seal. We're now going to use the Rahu to send from the deck for the fusion summon. This is the very important part of this combo to floodgate the opponent. We have to send the Frixel from the deck. As we summon into a Gulamel, as we're now going to trigger the Femina Engrave and the Frixel. Set from the deck, a spell negate. Set from the deck, the Horn to return a monster back to the hand. As we reborn back onto the field, the Arthalion. Urgula is going to be returning Engrave the Femina back to the hand. Now, we're going to get into the Floodgate play. This is very important to pay attention to this. They are going to be summoning their play. If they have a light or dark monster in their field, they're now going to get floodgated. We're going to use the Hieratic Seal to return back their monster here, and then we're going to trigger to summon from the deck an Albaz. Albaz will be discarding to fuse the light or dark, and then we're going to be going into whatever it is, a light or dark, to then fuse with the Frixel Engrave. It has to be Frixel and the Albaz, because we're now going to be summoning into a Sanctifier. Also, very important, our monsters must be in defense position, as we're now going to activate the Sanctifier to summon onto their side of the field the Floodgate. What is this, mate? This states that you cannot special summon except dragon monsters, and the opponent controls it. So if they're a Malice deck, if they're any deck that does not play dragons, they're completely floodgated. They're not going to be able to link off into a non-dragon, and we have everything in defense so they cannot swing into it. This is how you floodgate it up. Now, obviously, this will not be incredible in the mirror match because they do play dragons, but against any other non-dragon deck, this is a great option to floodgate them up. They are not able to special summon. That was a normal summon. They banished 2 cards. Neither of them could special summon. They can't link off into anything. They have no dragon link, and wham bam, thank you ma'am. If they were to possibly do something with another monster, you could return it back with the Horn. We also draw an additional card off of that play. This will be a Lukias plus any other Dracotail to use and abuse Anaconda. Lukias on summon is going to be searching our deck for the Femina, as Femina will activate to fusion summon. We're going to use our hand only to keep the Lukias on field to make our Arthalion. Arthalion is going to be targeting in graveyard back to our hand, 2 bodies, as the Pan activates to set up a card from the deck. As we return back to the hand, we have the Fool Loss and our Femina. We're now going to link off both bodies on the field immediately into Anaconda. Why now? Well, the Rahu is going to make it so we can't summon from the extra deck except fusion monsters for the rest of the turn. We must summon Anaconda early. Now, mind you, this is going to be weaker to a Nibiru, we don't have the Heavenly Spheres, which would trigger off of a Nibiru tributing off our field, so do use this with caution. We're going to summon the Gulamel with the Rahu, and we want to make sure that the Anaconda is our final special summon play, because otherwise we can't special summon beyond that. We're going to set up the Flame, set up the Horn, reborn back the Arthalion, and now we're going to use the Urgula in graveyard to return back to the hand, which we could do it before this activation, by the way. We could do it after or before. We're going to use the Anaconda to go into a Mirror Jade, and then we're going to Urgula, return back the Femina, and now I'm going to show you the other variation of this. Now, instead of summoning Mirror Jade, we're going to instead with Anaconda activate to send from the deck the Branded Fusion. We're going to use the Frixel and an Albaz to fuse into the Sanctifier Dragon. This can be beneficial because the Frixel can additionally trigger to set from the deck another Dracotail card like Dracotail Sting. With the Sting, we now could banish cards from the opponent's graveyard and additionally draw one more card. Otherwise, if you don't play this, you could set from the deck a Key2, and then Key2 could search our deck for a card like Mululu, which could further give us a negate on the Femina Fusion summon play. And with the Sanctifier, while it's untargetable, it can reborn back onto the field the Albaz to further go into the Mirror Jade anyway. I'm going to showcase to you a common Branded Fusion play with any other monster in hand. We're also going to see a Branded Fusion play with no other monster in hand. It will just be Branded Fusion, but for this one, this will be the more common play. We're going to Branded Fusion, send from the deck the Frixel and Albaz to go directly into a Sanctifier Dragon. We're not going straight into a Mirror Jade. We're going to set from the deck a Key2. Key2 is going to be searching for the Lukias, and then we're going to be doing our normal 1.5 card combo play as the Branded Fusion helped us bridge into Dracotail. Use the Femina to fuse the hand and field into the Arthalion. Arthalion is going to be returning engrave back the Femina as the Lukias sets in the deck the Rahu. Rahu is going to be used with the Femina to fuse the deck. We're going to send the Urgala to then fuse with the Femina into the Gulamel. And from there, we're going to be triggering in the grave the Femina and Urgala to then set from the deck a Horn and a Flame. With this field, we're going to have the ability to return a monster back. We could also Flame negate a spell. We could reborn from the graveyard the Albaz to fuse with their field. We could pop a card in the field with the Gulamel, and we could fuse with the Femina. So here will be an example of how this plays out. We have the Flame negating the Gold Sarcophagus. They're now going to be summoning a Dormouse. This is when we're going to be reborning onto their side of the field a monster. Now, what if they don't have a light or dark? That's okay. We could give them a light or dark from our own graveyard onto their side of the field. Then Albaz could fuse with that monster to go into a Mirror Jade play to then banish away their non-light, non-dark play. But since they already have a light or dark, we could fuse with their monster instead of the one we give them. Thus, we give them a crappy Fool Loss. We're going to go into Lubellion. Discard Femina. Let's fuse it up into our Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade can non-target monster banish any monster on the field. Get that Fool Loss out of here. Here is a one-card Branded Fusion play with no other cards required, and this will pretty much be going into a pseudo Floodgate. The Secretarion Dragon states that while you control this fusion summon card, your opponent cannot activate the effects of special summon dragon or spellcaster monsters they control. So within the mirror match, they can't special summon Arthalion to then activate it, and also the Gulamel is not going to be activatable. Let's start this off with Branded Fusion. We're going to send from the deck the Frixel and the Albaz going into the Albion Branded Dragon. We are not going to be activating its effect. We're just leaving it. We're triggering the Frixel to set from the deck the Key2 as we search for the Lukias. Lukias will be our normal summon as we now search our deck for the Femina. Femina is going to activate to fuse with the field. The Albion and the Lukias, this will be going into the Secretarion Dragon. And just like that, they are now floodgated as they can't activate special summon dragon or spellcaster monsters. We're going to be triggering the effect of Lukias to set. We're now going to use the effect of Secretarion. We're going to target engrave a dragon and spellcaster. Special summon one, return the other back in the deck. So we're going to be using the Albaz and the Frixel. We're going to reborn back the Frixel. On summon, she'll trigger. We're going to be reborning the Femina to then return her back to the hand, all through the same effect of Frixel. And now we're going to activate the Rahu, fusing with the Femina and an Urgala from the deck to summon a Gulamel. Let's now trigger both effects to set it up. Urgala and the Femina as we set up the spell negate and the monster return back mate. As we're now going to Urgala to return back engrave the Femina, as we're also going to be triggering engrave the Albion to search for a follow-up Branded Fusion on top of our Floodgate. Now, in the TCG, they do not have this card. It is exclusive to OCG and Master Duel only, and there are some cool plays. I'm going to show you the first one here. The second one will be a super Floodgate play. We'll start this off with an activated Spenta to search our deck for a Zorora. This will take up our normal summon, unfortunately. Zorora is going to be activating to equip an Artemis to then trigger the effect to reborn a monster in grave. We're going to reborn the Spenta. We're going to use the Artemis to search our deck for a Crowley. Crowley is going to trigger when added to the hand, special summoning itself onto the field. We're now going to synchro into a Borreload Savage Dragon. This will activate to equip engrave the Artemis. We're going to use the Spenta to equip a monster onto the field, and that will be the Zorora. We're going to send our 2 equipped cards to the graveyard to summon a Doom Dragon. We're now going to turn the Crowley into a Spirit with Eyes of Blue. And with 2 dragons, we're going to go into a Hieratic Seal. Now, this will bridge its way into Dracotail. Just wait. We have a negate with the Boarload, return a card back with the Hieratic Seal, and then what we summon from the deck will be a Dracotail play. They have a Dormouse, which we're going to fire off the effect right away, return back the Dormouse, trigger the Hieratic Seal to summon a Mululu. Mululu is now going to, whenever we want, fuse with our hand, plus the Mululu itself. We also have the negate on Boarload, so we're just waiting. Now, let's activate the Mululu to fuse with our hand and field to come forth and go into the Arthalion. Now, with multiple cards in the hand, we're going to be able to return multiple cards in the field back to the hand, and you're not committed to one source of what you're returning back. Ideally, one of the cards you return back will be the in-grave Crowley, in addition to the other cards you use for this material to return their monsters back. But if not, let's see what this looks like. We're just going to return back the Crowley to see that this is an optional play. We're going to be setting up a follow-up with the key to, since a trap would not be activatable. As the Crowley adds back, when adding back the Crowley, it's going to trigger no matter where it's added back from to summon itself on the field, and then we'll activate its other effect of Fusion Summon. We're going to fuse with the Arthalion to go into the Zerora Fusion. Now, normally you send a background card to negate something, but it could send itself. Let's see what happens. They're going to link off into a Splash Mage. Also, I forgot to mention that the Mululu, when used for a Fusion Summon, negates a monster on the field. We negated their Dormouse, thus they had to link it off because they couldn't activate it. Now, the Arthalion's going to trigger because 2 bodies were sent to the grave from either player, and now, when they activate the Splash Mage, we're going to use the Zerora. Zerora is better than Boarload here. Boarload will negate the activation and keep the card in the field. The Zerora is going to send itself to the graveyard, so it is fingerable, unfortunately that is, as we're now going to negate and destroy the Splash Mage. In addition to that, we have the negate with the Boarload Savage Dragon. So we have the follow-up of Dracotail, plus multiple negates and return a monster back. That was all off of the Spenta, and it did require our normal summon. Now for this combo, I'm going to showcase to you something that does not exist in the TCG nor OCG. This is a super Floodgate combo. We are using and abusing Anaconda until it gets banned. Let's activate Spenta, search our deck for the Zerora. Zerora is going to be reborning back the Spenta by equipping the Artemis. We're going to use the Artemis to activate its effect, search for the Crowley. Crowley is going to trigger, summon itself onto the field. We're now going to link off the Spenta specifically to summon a Spirit with Eyes of Blue. We're locked into Dragon monsters only. Spenta is going to banish, equip a monster from the extra deck. It could be any, it does not matter. And then we're going to summon a Doom Dragon by returning 2 equipped cards back. We're now going to put our 2 dragons together to go into a Heavenly Spheres. This must be in the extra monster zone to work. Now we're going to use our 2 other bodies to go into the Anaconda. Legal in Master Duel only. Send a Branded Fusion to send a Frixel plus an Albaz to go into a Sanctifier Dragon into defense. We're now going to Frixel trigger, set up a Horn. You can set up a Flame or a Horn, whatever you want. Now let's get ready to Super Floodgate them up. We're going to use the Albion right away. This is not targetable, so you can't imperm this. We're going to be reborning a Crowley onto our field, and of course we're going to give them the Spirit with Eyes of Blue. And just like that, they're so far floodgated, but we have another Floodgate. They cannot special summon except dragon monsters. So let's continue. Crowley, when summoned onto the field, is going to be triggering to Fusion Summon with the Anaconda to go into a Kaliga. Kaliga states that each player can only attempt to activate 1 monster effect per turn, and each player can only attack with 1 monster during each battle phase. And just like that, they are super floodgated up. The only thing they could attack into is the Heavenly Sphere, which we could make it so we just let it die. We don't even care. We could return a card back if so. Otherwise, they are super floodgated. Only 1 monster effect, and they're locked into dragon monsters only. All thanks to Anaconda, not only sending the Branded Fusion, but being used as a fusion material to go into this Floodgate play. And that's it. That's their 1 monster activation. Their banished card, which is March Hare, is legally activatable to go back to the hand because it's not special summoning, but Kaliga states that it cannot be activated. You attempted your 1 activation, you are done. A great question is, how do you counter this deck? Well, allow me to showcase to you as we activate the Rahu through a normal play. The opponent is going to be responding with a Retaliating Sea. What's that going to do? Well, it's going to special summon itself onto the field, and then we're going to try to summon a Gulamel through a normal play, right? We use the Femina, and we're then going to use the Argula. Both of them get freaking banished. We then summon a Gulamel, and with them getting banished, they're also not activating. They are not setting Dracotail cards in the deck. We're not recycling the Femina back to our hand. Any card sent to the graveyard is getting banished instead, and because we activated the Rahu, we're also locked out of the extra deck from going into something like a Little Knight. We can't Little Knight, we can't link off. This is going to be the main counter to beat this deck. Let's showcase another way to counter this deck. When they activate a Femina to fuse off into the Arthalion, they're going to be using most cards in their hand if they have many Dracotails. Otherwise, for this demonstration, we're just going to use the Full Loss. The Arthalion's going to, on summon, activate to return cards engraved back to the hand. As they also trigger the Lukias, we're going to try to return back the Femina as we Lukias set from the deck. This is where you could use your Impermanence. Imperm negate the Arthalion. If there are multiple cards they were targeting to return back, now they return none. And part of this normal combo is where we would set the Rahu here. If we set the Rahu here, it's not even activatable if we don't have a monster in the hand. We cannot use a monster from the deck and the Arthalion on the field because if you look at the fusion material requirements, it requires a monster in the hand, and the Arthalion's going to be the way to refill your hand. Now, they'll very likely have maybe a Maxi or a Full Loss still in their hand after this combo, but there is a chance that this could also happen, and even if they have a hand trap in hand, they still lose multiple cards in grave. Another way to counter this deck is through the Horn, Flame, or Sting, which you could use an Ash Blossom against to completely negate the effect, or a Ghost Bell. Both Bell and the Ash Blossom will stop them from returning your monster back, negating a spell, or banishing cards in the grave, as they'll also not draw a card. And if the Retaliating Sea was not cheesy enough for you, you could also play Dimensional Barrier. Obviously, they are a fusion-heavy deck. Declare fusion, wham bam, thank you ma'am, easy win. Now we're going to look for the best deck list for Dracotail using YugiOhMeta.com. We're going to go into the tier list where you can see Dracotail is the best deck in the TCG and in the OCG, but we're going to need some nuance with this. First off, in the TCG, we're going to scroll on down and go to the filter. We're going to filter to tier 3 only. Now, tier 3 only events, we're going to be looking at what decks are looking good. Recently, we have a top 8 tournament of a 2,400 player event looking very similar to this. Your deck could very closely be built alongside this. We have a top 16 from that same event, so make sure you take note of this, screenshot whatever you want to copy. We're now going to be moving on down to even later. We have a first place of Pittsburgh YCS 1,800 player event, the deck list you see on screen here. We also have top 4 of that same event, another top 4 of that same event taking 3 spots. They are playing the Fallen of the Virtuous though, so maybe you don't want to copy that. Obviously you can't. As we now further go on down the page, we have first place of Sao Paulo. This is what it's looking like. Copy this as you wish. We also have a top 4 from that same event. If we want to go even further, we have a top 16 of a 1,600 player event. And if we go on to the last page here, we have a top 4 of YCS Lily, where it's looking like this. Now for the OCG, I'm going to be setting up some filters for Spenta since it doesn't exist in the TCG, but it does in Master Duel. We're also going to be filtering out some of the other nonsense like Fallen of the Virtuous. And what we have here is from a 5,000 player event, YCS Nagoya, 5,000 players, where Spenta is being used in the deck, where it has the board load play with the Hieratic Seal, just like I showcased in the video. In addition to that, we have a second place tournament top, again using the extra deck monsters I showcased in the video. We then have a first place of a 54 player event, also another first place, I believe they are on the same team. And then we have second place of a team tournament looking like that, again looking like this. To wrap up the best decks, this is how the deck's being played in OCG through the deck breakdown. And if you notice here, the Key 2 Dracotail is limited to 1 and it's still dominating. As you can see, there's a good future for this deck with some more support on its way. We also have the TCG breakdown here, and we have a filter without the tier 3 events, but then we click it, boom, this will be with YCS events. So very similar to what you saw previously. All of the filters are looking good. If you appreciate the guide and you want to learn more, tournaments are one of the best ways to do so. On twitch.tv/Decade, I'll be casting tournaments of the new pack on new pack release day, and also every Sunday at 4 p.m. EST. I'll see you there.